Spring Television. Ours it is.
All right, good morning and welcome to the show, Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. My name is Emmanuel Ojadigele, E.M. Ojadigele on Twitter. And if you're just joining us for the first time on the show here, we bring you information. We bring you 3 segments of the show: the newspaper analysis, where we look at stories that are done in the faces of the national dailies. And we also take the interview segment, where we speak to various and sundry experts and, of course, our guests who help us to make sense of certain issues around the country and around the globe also. And of course, join me later at the end of the show for Spring Trends, where I tell you who is trending, what is trending, and why they are trending. I'm reaching you live from Star Times, channel 190 on the DTT platform, but you can follow the conversation on all of our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, check us out on YouTube at Western Spring Television to subscribe to us. I'm not alone in the studio this morning. I have my colleague on set this morning, a different colleague this time.
Super glad to be here. Thank you for being there. Good morning to Emmanuel. Really nice to be seated with a chieftain on this platform.
I don't know what you mean by a chieftain, but
seriously, I know when you have great guys and you have the opportunity to sit down with them.
Okay, so let's
move. Today, who is my name, and I'm super glad to be here with you.
All right, Tunde and I will bring you the program going forward, and of course you will be enjoying it as you've always enjoyed. We have the papers ready for you, but when we come back from the break, we'll take the break. All right, welcome back to the show. We begin with the Punch newspaper this morning. The Punch newspaper has as its banner headline, Dangote Refinery petrol hits markets July. Federal government to save 7 trillion naira. That's on page 25. And the writers there say plant projects exports to 53 African countries and to toxic fuel supply. Dangote Buhari says refinery game changer. Emefiele projects 12,000 megawatt power. That's the Dangote Refinery was the talk of the town yesterday.
Absolutely.
Everybody was there. Everybody was listening. Felt like the whole of Lagos was alive.
Seriously, I hope this will function properly, given the opportunity. Now, if you've been able to expend about $19 billion, that's huge. And looking at not just Nigeria will benefit from this refinery. We can't actually wait. We're looking forward to this so that let's cushion the effect of scarcity, marketers, wahala, and let's live a free life, right here
I was going to wait for you to say for once.
Seriously.
So some of our economists, if you listen to our bulletin last night, some of our economists have said that it's going to help the government save money. Subsidy will be, if it's removed, this will also cushion that effect, and there's a ripple effect of jobs and all those who are dependent on those who will be.
That's one of the major things. So when I heard about 135,000 people, that's massive. If such people leave the society of unemployed and they get something doing, probably gradually we have less spate of insecurity, less spate of thuggery, and all these things. So well done.
And then their families too will also benefit from. It's a ripple effect thing. Or you can see pictures, some sites from that event. You see the picture of the president commissioning the project. So the picture of the president there, and of course a snapshot of the entire project. Very massive. Congratulations to Aliko Dangote. At the bottom strip of the Punch newspaper, my administration boosted Navy's capacity with 20 ships. That's coming from President Buhari on page 43. The Navy, I saw some clips yesterday of Buhari commissioning a ship, I think NIS Katsina, and it was such a huge one. But now hearing him saying that 20 ships were added over the period of 8 years, that has helped boost our maritime life in the fight against oil bunkering and oil theft. And well, I don't know. It seems that we're doing better on the waterways.
Yeah, looking at, aside the fact that bunkering, whereby we had a little bit of it in the last couple of years before federal government decided to employ Tompolo and his guys, and they actually stepped up their game. But when it comes to pirates on the sea, waterways, we didn't really have much of them here in Nigeria compared to countries like Somalia, where you have major rampant and stuff like that. But President Muhammadu Buhari, we like to say congratulations. 20 ships, naval ships. We can just ask for more, as Oliver Twist will always ask for more.
My worry now is not just the numbers, it's the functionality.
Exactly.
And how they'll be maintained to ensure that there isn't any moribund ship in the nearest future. Well, the red story on the Punch newspaper, the red story that says operators fault removal of NAMA managing director. There's a snapshot there of Minister of Aviation, Adi Sirika. But on page 44, governors-elect protest as outgoing governors shun transition panels. Page 44. Does it remind you of the Osun State situation?
You say, I don't know. We find it difficult in this part of the world. Because I'm not from your party, we're not from the same party. We should. It's virtually everywhere around the world. Though. It happened in the U.S. when Trump was, and Trump didn't come. He had to send Mike Pence to do the needful there. Politics shouldn't be with bitterness. We shouldn't bring that aspect of bitterness into politics. If I probably lost an election, I'll go back to the drawing board. Where did I get it wrong? Then fashion or cushion out that problem, come again. Before you know it, 4 years is just here. Seriously. So, and just as if I had lost, and you didn't do well in the next 4 years, people will think about me again. So that's what we need to do. We don't need to now begin to do all this.
All of this, I believe, will set traps for the incoming administration. Absolutely. Because you're flying in blind. You don't know what has been going on, what is going on. I think we need to get to a place where we forget that politicking is not just about party politics. It's also about the people. If you are putting the goodwill of the people on the line because you're from party A and this person is from party B, you, for the first 3-6 months, the person who is in there will be grappling with, okay, what was left? What am I to do? And all of that. It's really shameful that this is happening. Even in a state where you have the same governors from the same parties. There's reportedly some issues between Sim Fubara and Nyesom Wike, on the choice of who to invite to the inauguration. And all of these issues really should not be coming up in 2023. People say it in 2023.
This godfatherism thing is something that is still killing our politics right here in Nigeria. Because now that I would say you have put me there, I put you there, so I have to. No, you've done yours. Let another person do his or hers. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, I believe we'll get there, but let's hope that we get there. On page 2, above the nameplate of the Punch newspaper now, Tribunal rejects live broadcast. Supreme Court decides anti-Tinubu suit Friday. We saw it coming.
When the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar, His Excellency, and His Excellency Peter Obi of the Labour Party, when they sought for this live broadcast, within me, I said this shouldn't be. Why? It's a court proceeding. It's like you asking to televise what the military is doing. They're planning, they're strategizing towards attacking the enemy. And then you're bringing in the cameras, you're bringing in microphones to show the world. No. This is a court proceeding. This should be an indoor thing. If you want to be part of, you want to know what's happening there, Emmanuel, please go there.
No, but there are countries where they broadcast. They have court proceedings. This is a special proceeding. I would have expected that it's a test for the judiciary. People want to see what's going on. The Opute panel was televised. When you look at some of the trials of Donald Trump were televised. You could follow live, you could watch live. But I saw it coming the moment the court said there is no there's a ban on phones and other mobile gadgets in internet. If you can ban phones, definitely there will be no live broadcast. But I think it's because we've not matured to that point, honestly.
If you say so, but I just feel stops like
there should be no secrecy in the court. It's a public place.
Yeah, it is.
How many people can go to Abuja?
But the point is we will still have cause to be able to read it. And yeah, just as our director was saying now, yeah, that's one of the biggest things now. Safety of the witnesses. Nigeria, it's you know it somewhere,
but
probably somewhere around the world.
Witnesses will still come out in the papers.
The point is, we are on that level where the safety of witnesses isn't guaranteed. It's not. But
this is not a criminal. This is not a criminal matter.
You don't look the way it is right now. As we are, everybody wants to occupy that number one seat, and the best thing somebody thinks is take out
the witnesses.
And it's
what
really,
about
really
what about the justices, the judges? Will they be taken out? You know, so we
still find it difficult to take out the justices because they would rather go for that person who will not allow me get to that seat. So if I am able to take out that person, yeah, obviously the coast is clear. I probably have the opportunity to get there now that he's dead or she's dead. But I think it's just as you said, it would have actually been a process where everybody will have been able to see what's happening out there. But are we mature to that level whereby, yes, even if I lose or he wins, life goes on?
I mean, we've not gotten to that level, so I may want to tilt towards your position. But that's all on the Punch newspaper today this morning.
All right, and let me check out some of the headlines I have from Daily Trust newspaper for this beautiful Tuesday morning from Daily Trust newspaper. And of course, the big bold caption that virtually all the dailies have. It's about the Dangote refinery and quoting what Mr. President, who actually commissioned it yesterday here, says Dangote refinery, a game changer. That's credited to President Muhammadu Buhari. We analyzed that at some point. Flags of Lake Chad oil drilling today. Nigeria to be self-sufficient. Seriously, what do you feel? If we are self-sufficient, the whole world will probably come to us, and we'll get more idea, more revenue, economy becomes better, and probably will have increase in salary.
Some more money around. Well, the self-sufficiency for me is a delightful one, and we are all expecting to see that Nigeria has been through fuel petroleum issues. I mean, last year, December, early January. It's not just about the price now, but the availability. What I've discovered that if you make it 700, as long as it is available, people will buy.
That's it.
People will buy. We need to get to that point where we are producing, we're refining now. Obviously, by the time it fully kicks off, we're refining, and so the impact on our foreign exchange will be significant. Absolutely. And then the impact within the country would also be significant. So we're looking forward to self-sufficiency.
Still on that rider here, says to generate $21 billion, employ over 100 youths. You know, we stated this while we started. Yes, let's get all these unemployed youths off the street.
Yes.
It's essential. If we can do that, seriously, probably we'll be able to sleep with both eyes closed and not having to worry that somebody's coming to visit me. African company for African by an African. That's Aliko Dangote has actually has been a man who surprised me quite a whole lot. There was a time I think I went towards Obajana, where the cement factory is, and that road was in a deplorable state at that time. And obviously, he owns the cement factory. Before we knew it, we saw that he could he was actually doing the roads with his cement. He was everything. He was. So I don't know. He's such an amazing man. I want to really say kudos to this man. And when he said he wanted to buy Arsenal Football Club, probably if he had bought it, they would not have bought you to the league. If you had been on the league table for about 248 days, and eventually you decided to now.
Well, let's for the sake of
Joseph, my brother, I don't want him to get angry this morning. But
Femi Olanipo, his mental health is important. So let's
move on this morning on the bottom strip. Let's go to the Sudan crisis. Nigerian pilgrims to pay $100 airfare hike. When will this be sorted out? Lives have been lost, destruction there to the right, to the left.
It's the craze for pies. It's annoying. It can be devastating and destructive. People don't know when to stop. That's my worry. People don't know when to stop. And I usually ask, how much more lives can you see destroyed before your ambition is stepped down? I understand the need to be in power. This lucrative. It's convenient. You can make, but the ripple effects.
Honestly. You begin to see bodies on the street. You see houses destroyed. The kids, not if anybody, humans, we're all important. And when things like this happen, I cry for the situation at the moment, because this is not needed. Power. Everybody wants to be number one. Can this be done amicably? Seriously. All right, let's move to the top strip of that Daily Trust this morning. Experts want Tinubu to insist on synergy among security forces. Mr. President-elect, this is coming from us to you as well. You need to really work on that. There should be that synergy, honestly. Spate at which we didn't have this years ago, whereby we had kidnappings, the speed at which insecurity is in Nigeria. I don't go out of my house as late as anytime from 6 p.m. Yes. I rather sit at home. What am I looking? Because the fear is there. Yes. Everybody tends to, like, you don't know who is who. If a car suddenly parks, you have that fear.
You want to jump.
Seriously. Well, so, Mr. President-elect, we look forward to you doing something concerning security as well. CBN stalled intervention disrupts activities at Buhari's alma mater.
We'll get to see more on that story on page 3 of Daily Trust.
All right. Any other thing from the next newspaper?
All right. So quickly, because of our time, we're expecting our guests. Let's take on the Guardian newspaper. The editorial there says Buhari's fragile pieces, more hardware, less safety. It's such an interesting read that you can check out on page 2 of page 12 of the Guardian newspaper. Well, the banner headline is about the telecommunication industry. Says telcos' rising revenues, profit fail to reflect in quality of services. And I totally agree. I totally agree. These people are making money off of Nigerians. They're getting their coins, as they say in local parlance. But it takes you a lot of time to surf the internet, because there's a slow, I don't know if it's the bandwidth, I'm not a technical person, I'm not a telecommunications person, but you have data. You can't use it.
You can't access it. It could be very painful.
Very.
At the moment at which you want to send something and it's urgently needed, and the data network, it begins to fluctuate, you almost want to weep. But yeah, we just hope all this will get back in shape and work out properly, because the rate at which I don't want to use the word exploit. I have to buy data, I have to buy credit, I buy data.
And by the time you start working, it has expired. We need to solve
there's one of the telecoms companies whereby when they send messages to you, you buy data 2 hours ago, 2 hours after you begin to see
200 MB left. Well, so you need to get your acts together, all of you in the telecommunications industry. But there's a graphic there of the Airtel and MTN. You see their profit margin there, 2020 to 2022. You see how much they've made. The profit, the revenue profit, and the capex there. You see on page 6 if you want to follow that story. And on page 4, presidential election petition, court dismisses Atiku Obi's request for live telecast of proceedings. That's the second paper carrying that story this morning. Relief for travelers as Buhari commissioned second Niger bridge today. Page 28. Another, if you say landmark project of the Buhari administration, the second Niger bridge. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And it's good that it is finally seen the light of the day and will be commissioned for use today. Congratulations to all those plying that axis. I think it takes the pressure away from the old Niger bridge, and then can reduce traffic also. And $18.5 billion Dangote refinery to release first products in August. May is gone already, just 7-8 days to the end of May. We can't wait for August to come.
Just hope if I have to get it, I wouldn't need to queue for a long time.
Let's see how, hopefully it will reduce the queues. That's on page 6 of The Guardian. And we can take the nation before we leave that today.
Just as every other daily we have been able to reel out this morning, it's all about Dangote Refinery from the pages of the Nation newspaper. Petrol, diesel, others to flow from Dangote Refinery July. We're waiting. Other headlines there. Why tribunal rejected motions on live telecast. We deliberated about it some few moments ago.
Yeah,
if you're interested, please, you can check it out.
There's an interesting quote
honestly there. You can actually see what it means. We had divergent views concerning this, but I don't know. We just hope we will understand why the courts are saying, hey, nothing of such will come forth here. But then, if you're interested in it, please check out.
So the quote says, the requirement that the court sits in public does not mean that it should sit in a stadium or in a marketplace.
Exactly.
The sensitive and delicate nature of election petitions should not be compared to the trials of O.J. Simpson in the U.S. and Oscar Pistorius in South Africa. The law provides for the shielding of the identity of witnesses in election cases. End of quote. Well,
you see what I mean?
Well, the witnesses can wear masks if they are willing to talk.
Faced backwards.
Away from the camera. Okay. There are ways we do that.
Yeah, trust you. You're making a plea somewhere for certain people.
The Supreme Court has ruled on it, so that the tribunal has ruled on it, rather.
All right. Moving on the top strip of the Nation newspaper, Sirika, more heads to roll in aviation agencies. I think that's one statement we've heard from different governments severally. More heads to roll. Let's just see what it looks like when one head rolls first, and let's see who will be held accountable for whatever issues we have somewhere. Then all of us, in one way or the other, you will sit up, because you'll be amazed that if I'm caught, I will face the tune. Yes. So rather than myself getting embarrassed or getting punished, suspended, or sacked, let's do the needful. Still with the Nation newspaper, Tinubu will support Navy, says Buhari. Once the platform is right, he definitely will do that as well. And we look forward to him doing that, actually. President signed Social Investment Agency Bill, others. Why judiciary insists and resists technical judgments.
That's on page 13 of the Nation.
Yes. All right.
Okay, so that's all on the Nation, but I'll just take the other two there for you. Second Niger Bridge, 6 other projects for inauguration today. Supreme Court fixes Friday for judgment in PDP suit against Tinubu Shetima. But that's all on the papers this morning. We brought you the Punch, Guardian, Daily Trust, and the Nation. Myself and Tunde Idowu. We'll be going on a short break now. When we come back, it'll be time to talk to our guests. We're still x-raying the Buhari administration, but this time the focus is on how it has affected some of its promises from 2015 down to 2023. Has it fulfilled those promises? How have the youths perceived the president? We'll be back after this break.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is. Affected, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okeogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited with the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally, the first story builder's first bishop. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history. The 1914 Amalgamation Treaty is synonymous to the birth of Nigeria.
You're welcome back and thank you for joining us. Morning Spring right here from Western Spring Television, channels 190 DTT. That's where we are transmitting from. You can visit our social media handles on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Western Spring Television. In another 6 days from now, this present administration will be folding up and another government will definitely take its course for the next 4 years. I've been able to say, look, we probably didn't really get much from this outgoing administration. We want to emphasize, we want to look at some of these major issues. Was this administration profitable? Was it worthwhile, worthy enough for the youth of this dear nation in the course of 8 years of the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration? This is what we'll be looking at on the program Morning Spring for this beautiful Tuesday morning. How have the youth fared under this administration? Has it been worthwhile? What were their experiences? I have two great gentlemen in the house, though one is a lady. Well, you know, they are all gentlemen when it comes to this part of the industry. I have the program's coordinator, Youth Resource Center, right here in Osun State. It's a pleasure to have Babawale Oluwatobi join us this morning. Good morning, Babawale.
Good morning, Uncle.
Good morning, Toby.
It's nice having you here.
And also we have an entrepreneur in the house as well, and she is one woman, a lady, all right, who loves to do things really positive for herself. Deborah Choladoye, an entrepreneur. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, sir.
Right, gentlemen, let me start with Toby this morning. 8 years of the President Buhari's administration is gradually winding down. For you as a person, what is Buhari's biggest win in this almost 8 years of his administration? Where would you categorize his biggest win?
All right, thank you, Uncle. Let me start by saying that for any administration in a government or in an organization, whether we like it or not, the common saying is that such person has done his or her bit. So let me start by saying that the current administration, they've done their bit. We've seen the best of them, and of course we've seen the worst of what they have done. But I would not like to start from the good part. I would like to start from the other side.
All right.
Because if you ask me, I would say that as much as we give kudos to this administration for some things that we're able to get right, it's also important that we say that this administration, to a very large extent, has disappointed the youth, and I will give my reasons for that.
Please go ahead.
And so to go to the good part where you talked about, I believe that one of the greatest things that they've been able to do in this administration, although they began to get hold of some of these things during the second term of the administration, is probably the Startup Act that was signed, if you ask me, and the Not Too Young to Run bill. And if you ask me, both bills in this scenario were not basically initiated by people in the government. It was initiated by the youth through various non-governmental organizations, and you know, it was at some point it looks as though it was pushed down the throat of the administration. So I make bold to say that if we've not had this so-called lazy Nigerian youth, like Mr. President addressed us sometimes in 2018, if we have not had some of these people to push these things down their throat, push it up to them, I'm sure we would still be at the same stage up till now. Right. So, and to talk about the bad part, this administration has failed the youth in so many ways. Now, there is this saying that a promise is a debt. And I believe that in politics, promise is more than a debt, because promise is a commitment.
Absolutely.
And if I'm to say this, not until 2019, when this administration thought of creating the Ministry for Communications and Digital Economy by Issa Pantami, it was at that point that I felt like, oh, it looks as though they are beginning to think in the right direction. But it was around the same time that they placed the ban on crypto. So it goes to say that the mild achievements that this administration have been able to bring on board, that they've been able to lift up as their trophy, were achievements that were initiated by the youths. And you know, this promise of will create, was it 1 million jobs in a year? I'm not sure about that figure in a year. And you know, here we are today. I am not sure this administration has created up to a quarter of what was promised as far as job creation is concerned. It's concerned. So
let me hold you. Let me, Deborah, as a young woman and an entrepreneur in the industry, you're trying to get your footings right and make it happen for yourself. And let me ask you: has President Muhammadu Buhari failed to fulfill his major campaign promises on lifting millions of Nigerians out of poverty and creating 3 million jobs annually? For you as an entrepreneur, has he been able to fulfill that promise? Have you felt the impact of his promise made in 2015? Have you actually been able to grab with those promises?
Okay, thank you for that question. First of all, I need to look at it from two parts.
Go ahead.
And that is, first of all, from the employability aspect of the youth. And of course, the administration, the government aspect of the thing. So first of all, I want to start with the employability aspect of the youth, like from the skills to, you know,
that is skill acquisition,
the needed knowledge and all of those things. For me, most of the youth, of course, I go out, I talk to people, I attend conferences, and of course, I meet very amazing youth. I see people, young people doing well for themselves, amazingly well. But saying that much as I see some people doing well for themselves, we have, in fact, I want to be bold to say that for every one amazing youth you see, there are actually about 3 to 4 students. I don't want to use a very harsh word now. There are actually about 3 to 4 unserious youth you see out there. You know, not ready to skill up, not ready to own up, always making excuses, lack of discipline, procrastination. They just want to have everything on a platter of gold. And apparently, we know life itself does not work like that.
That's so, absolutely.
It's work in process. It has to come by something. You have to give in something to get something. Do you understand? So now, from that angle, I would say the youths or we ourselves are not, you know, trying. Now, looking at it from the administrative part, the government's the truth is, as much as they've tried, like he has rightly pointed out, they've also failed woefully. Like I remember part of the 30 promises he made in 2015, about 6 or 7 of it was pointing towards the youth, and I mean it was really looking amazing and all of that. But the follow-up, the implementation wasn't done. The pursuant were not even looking towards. I felt like it was more about the theory than practical. They were not just following up. It was just about the saying, like, okay, let's just say this to get them emotional, to help them, you know, to make them feel. I mean, part of the major thing I think a lot of people liked the first campaign was because of the youth inclusiveness. And here we are today. In his own administration, the unemployment rate has, in fact, it has skyrocketed to
3%.
Up to 40% now, 40.6% if I'll be precise. And among the youth, we have about 53%. Do you know what that means? That means about 150 million youth, we have about 80 million of them not employed. So how do we, I don't know, how do we put that together? For me, it doesn't.
Yes, so, for you, you don't think he has been able to fulfill?
No.
Let me come back to Toby here. Looking at this project, the NPower thing that was created during his regime, and I think they said they were about to bring about 10 million Nigerians out of poverty at that level with the NPower thing that came up at that moment. Will you say that worked out well for Nigerian youths?
Thank you. It did not work out well for Nigerian youths. Well, I'll give reasons for that. Now, if you look at the approach of this administration, when it comes to easing the pain of the masses, or when it comes to lifting people out of poverty, these approaches, they are not empirically proven. They do not align with basic economical strategies. They do not align with basic tenets that a policy should abide with. Now, you do not lift people out of poverty by providing what they would do in a short stand. Poverty is a big deal. It's important to say that. Poverty is a big deal. You don't lift people out of poverty by giving them money. You lift people out of poverty by, first of all, creating an enabling environment for them to thrive. You can't lift the whole world out of poverty. But if you create the right environment for people to thrive, they will definitely get out of poverty. No one wants to be poor.
Absolutely.
That's clear. No one wants to be poor. So if we look at the NPower program, the NPower program was more like, it's about a year or so. You get employed, you get shortlisted, then you work for a particular government organization and you're paid I think minimum wage or so, you get paid for about a month. Then those set of people are pulled out. And then you bring the new set of people in. Now, let's be sincere with ourselves. The people that you've brought in to work, and then after a year, say a year or two, they're pulled out of the scheme, have they been lifted out of poverty? Permit me to say, sir, that NPower would have been more reasonable, more effective if it was used as a tool to address upskilling, reskilling for youths. It would have been more reasonable. Let me give a perfect example. I know of someone who was enlisted as part of the NPower Corps, and he has a farm. He runs a farm. He has a poultry. He has a piggery and all of that. And while he was brought on board, he was seconded to a ministry to the Ministry of Agriculture. There is a particular agricultural programs department, and he was there. And he said, After about 3-4 months, it stopped going. Why? They just resumed there and the seat. There's nothing to do. And when they lodged the complaints to the program manager, come on, we should be able to do something here. The program manager said, there is no allocation. There is not. They said they just brought you in here to fulfill their campaign mandates. Nothing to do. So I do not. Sometimes you wonder when you see the approach of this administration to some issues, especially as regards the youth, as regards our economy, you tend to ask, who is making this decision? Let me give another example. Look at currently, this administration is trying to get a loan from World Bank, and it is said that this loan will be distributed at a price of 5,000 naira per person after the subsidy removal. So you ask yourself, if be honest, if I give you 5,000 naira every month, 5,000 naira does not last a day. Absolutely. If you want to feed well, in Nigeria today, 5,000 naira is never going to sustain you in a week. So as far as I'm concerned, the N-Power program is more like another political propaganda, another political policy, another political strategy put together by some political cabals to make some money. And of course, to give out contracts to some of their folks. And painfully enough, you get to see that during this N-Power program, I know a number of people that they are in well-paid jobs, but they were still selected as part of the N-Power Corps. So sometimes a job that should be meant for those who are jobless is now being done by someone who has a job and does not even show up as a staff of the N-Power Corps. So it goes to say a lot about this administration. Like Deborah rightly said, you see, it's not a function of policies. As much as we talk about laws, we talk about bills, we talk about policies, as much as we talk about these things, following them up, ensuring that these policies are domesticated, ensuring that these policies are put to good use, ensuring that these policies is actually made effective for those in which the policies were created for is the real goal here. So you see a lot of policies flying around in this administration, but there is simply no domestication. There is simply no acts on these policies.
Thank you, Toby. Let me come back to Deborah here. The private sector means a whole lot to any economy around the world. If the private sector is well set up, you have people doing this, doing that, and government is supportive of the private sector, the possibility whereby that economy will blossom will be there. But President Muhammadu Buhari promised to scale up about 10 million Nigerians in partnership with the private sector. From your own view, did this reflect in his 8 years administration? Honestly, no.
If I'll be very honest, because if you're going to skill up, it means you're going to empower them mentally, socially, to help them become all they want to be, right? At least to, eradicating poverty, like he pointed out, is, upskilling them, making them become better version of themselves.
Absolutely.
And this has to do with education, investing in education, investing in training, subsidizing training that, highly, cost and all of that, to help people have access to this thing. But as far as I know, I don't know, but as far as I know, which of course we are all in this country together, I don't see that happening throughout the administration. The Ministry of Youth and Sports, even from the federal level down to the state level, I don't see them doing anything. Like he rightly pointed out, most of them actually just go to work. See, the honest truth is our economy, we invest in jobs that have low turnout on the economy, and we want to grow. That is not possible. Instead of, investing in things that would help us grow, not just as a community, but even down to individual levels. For example, manufacturing sector is down, the agricultural sector is zero. All these places, they need people who would work in this. See, to me, to be honest, it's not like there are no places to, to fill up. There are no people to fill up the spaces, and there are no jobs actually. But the problem is the government or this administration has so far not invested in the right areas that they should. I mean, we have youth. Most of the people looking for jobs these days are graduates, and most of them end up becoming fast entrepreneur, sharp entrepreneur. You know, just to save CEO, just to keep body and soul together. So really, to me, so far so good. This administration, as far they've not delivered to the youth what they should.
Absolutely. Let me thank you, Deborah. Let me still ask Toby as well for your own view of this as well. Looking at the private sector, just as I said, the private sector is very important for any sensible government, any government that wants to thrive, that wants the economy to thrive. You need to partner up with private sector. Government can't do it all alone. We need them to support the public, the community with this and that. So many things. But in 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, for the youth, do you think he's been able to bring out those 10 million Nigerians out of unemployment? In the next couple of months or thereabout, we'll have graduates coming out again from the universities, tertiary institutions, and where will they go to? Do you understand? In 8 years of this administration, do you think they have been able to pull out 10 million youths out of unemployment status and place them alongside support from the private sector?
Thank you. They've not been able to do that.
Wow.
I think it's important that we reiterate that over and again. It's important that we reiterate it over and again. They've not been able to do that. And it's important for me to say that if any government is going to lift people out of poverty, if any government is going to create employment, it is important that it is done through the private sector. I'll give you a very good example. Sectors that seems to be, let me say sectors that are working, because even the sectors that are working, there are little hiccups here and there, right? So the sectors that seem to be working in Nigeria today are strongly driven by the private sector. That's just the truth. Look at our telecoms, for example. I'm still, I think I was not too young, at least while I was growing up, I had experience with Nitel. I would stand on a queue to make calls and all of that. I saw the productivity that we had at Nitel. Can you compare it with the private telecoms that we have running now? Look at the banking sector. Look at the media. Look even in the media. If we were to air a program or an event in Nigeria today and you wanted to go global, you and I know the organizations you would go to. You would definitely not be looking at a government media outfit. That is to tell you that as far as Nigeria is concerned, as far as we are in this stage of our development, I do not like to say Nigeria is underdeveloped. I would like to say Nigeria is a developing nation, right? Because there's still a lot of room for improvement. So I would say that for a country that is still developing, we need a lot of private sector intervention. And you see, there is this saying that it is no more the government's business to do business.
Of course.
What the government needs to do is create an environment, create laws, create policies that can help these businesses, that can help that can help the private sector grow. That is what the government needs to do is to regulate. What you need to do is to just stand aside and ensure that the rules, the boundaries are well kept. And it's going to run very, very well. And you know, talking about the private sector as it is today, I make bold to say that if you look at the employment indices or the statistics that you have in the private sector in Nigeria today, and you compare with what we have in government, you might find out that the private sector has employed more than the government. Do you know why? The figures that you see that is being displayed by the government, oh, this is our employment figures, this is the number of staff we have in this organization. If you check well, probably 10 to 15% of that figure are ghost workers. And And you know, it's funny to even see that some of those folks that work in the government organizations, they have their own businesses, and you would rarely see them at work. So that goes to say that as far as this administration is concerned, the crooks of the promises they made should have been hinged on the private sector involvement. But as far as this administration is concerned, as far as the engaging private sector is concerned, it's a no. And for the two things that I said they might have been able to do well, the not too young to run bill, and also the Startup Act was initiated by the private sector. So you might want to ask yourself again, what exactly did these governments initiate and do for themselves? Wow.
Deborah, I know you're very conversant with Twitter. We're conversant about what happened during the cryptocurrency and stuff like that. Okay, let me first of all ask Toby, because Toby is a little bit more into business, and I'm going to take it up with you on this as well. Toby, let me come back to you here. You know, there was a time President Muhammadu Buhari banned Twitter, his government, about what happened. We remember what transpired. His ban on Twitter and crypto at some moment in time. What does it tell about the ease of doing business for youths? Most of when I see things today, you hear order for this, you do it online. Right. Most of the business, everybody is moving online. But when that ban came, if you want attention, put something up on Twitter, and in 5, 10 minutes, you get the responses. Right. You get it's them. But looking at that period where there was a ban on Twitter, there was a ban on crypto. We have countries in the world now whereby crypto is what they are spending.
They're flourishing.
Now, and they're flourishing. Thank you. What does this make for the youth if stuff like this are banned in Nigeria? What would the ease of business look like for the youths?
Thank you. It's important for me to start this way. If you check currently, one of the most difficult places to start or run a business in the world today is Nigeria.
Why you say so?
That is because if you want to register a business in Nigeria today, it takes an average of 3 to 4 weeks. In Rwanda, Kigali to be precise, it takes about 2 to 3 days. In fact, I make bold to say that a particular entrepreneur said he did it in hours. That is to tell you how responsive the government is, right? So let me put it this way. When you see a government going against the things that it should pay attention to, it goes to say that the government is not in synchronization with the current trend. You know, when I heard about the Twitter ban, it was so crazy, because most times you tend to condemn and you cut off the things that you cannot understand, the things that you do not feel you have a power over. And you know, one of the African ideology is that if you are older, if I'm older than you, there's that ideology that if I'm older than you, I have a right to oppress you, I have a right to cheat you, I have a right to make you do the things I want you to do without explanation.
No more than you.
Which is wrong. There is this ideology that I am more than you. So, and you know, it's so bad that if you are older, it is believed that the older should be richer than the younger. So you see, this stuff generates a lot of envy, and that's the exact picture. That's the exact action I saw at play as far as the Twitter ban and the crypto ban is concerned. I mean, around the time when crypto was kicked against by the central bank and all of that, Russia was flourishing based on crypto. Right? As at that time, I personally, I'm sure everyone listening to me now, you know 1 or 2 persons that started their businesses off the gains of cryptocurrency. I mean, get to Nigerian university campuses, you will see a lot of businesses here and there. When you get to meet the entrepreneurs and you engage them, how were you able to raise funds? A number of them, a significant number, I must say, were able to raise funds from cryptocurrency.
Do you think crypto will have worked properly if given the chance here in Nigeria?
Definitely it would have worked properly. But you know, the challenge with the Nigerian government is they've not made attempts to intimate themselves with the digital economy. Now, the digital economy is something that a right-thinking leader must be ready to sit, learn, and understand. whatever you do not understand, you would not be able to regulate it. Hence the reason for the ban. They feel we can't regulate this thing. We do not understand. How do you tell me, oh, you have this currency I can't see, and you're able to purchase things with it? You know, something determines how it increases, and you know, it seems like it's fraud. So let's just cut it off. So I felt what the government should have done then is understand how this thing works. See how it can be incorporated, and you know, in an attempt to do what I just said, they then came up with e-Naira and all of that. I mean, I just received a newsletter this morning from a particular fake news firm, and you know, the title of that post is it e-Naira or EMT? You know, because there is nothing happening around it. It was just launched out of envy, out of an assumption that, oh, we know what we are doing. So I feel cryptocurrency, I feel that the digital economy is the future of Nigeria. If definitely we're looking at encouraging the youth, you know, everyone is saying tech is the new oil, tech is the new space that everybody wants to get into. If actually we mean that, and we are serious about development as a nation, and we're serious about the development of our youth, then digital economy should be #1 on our list.
Deborah, as an entrepreneur, and of course, majorly you tend to trend more on the social media, doing other stuff. How do you think this could work well for youths in Nigeria, and what's your disposition to the online business in Nigeria today? Okay,
the world is now, this 21st century is a tech, it's a global village, it's a digital village, and for you to thrive well, you need to have the needed knowledge on tech. Digital literacy is key. Digital literacy is key for this 21st century. If you want to strive well in everything, in anything, it is something you must incorporate in your personal life, in your business, you know, for your community. So saying or thinking you want to strive outside this new trend, for me, that is a straight way to failure. That is in fact, you're not heading anywhere.
Wow.
It's a dead end.
Toby, let's move further because of our time here. Let's look at the government's disposition towards the impunity against youth by security forces. President Muhammadu Buhari claimed that the NSAS protest against police brutality was aimed at removing him from office as at then. What does this say about the psychology gap between his administration and the youths?
Okay, thank you. I'm not surprised that it's this position. Like I said, the gap between Nigeria's president and the emerging generation in Nigeria is too wide. Because how do you explain to a retired army general that a peaceful protest is not an attempt to overthrow his government? I mean, this is a man that has been part of a number of coup d'etat. So naturally, it is expected that someone like that would see any confrontation as a threat. And if you ask me, I think that's the ideology of the security and the military system in Nigeria. I mean, if a police officer stops you on the road and you ask the police officer, why did you stop me? Immediately, the police officer assumes that you're trying to embarrass, or you're trying to challenge or suppress him, right? So it's a major challenge, and I must say that it's a very painful situation that we found ourselves. Honestly, it's a very, very painful one. And for me, I believe that what this administration should have done, because I mean the administration it's over, the milk is spilled already. What they should have done should have been to create a dialogue with the youth. It is clear, it is crystal clear that this administration and the youth were at loggerheads. Almost throughout this administration, at various points, the youths, right, and the administration, they've not been on the same page. Maybe they have been in the same book because we are all in Nigeria, but they've definitely not been on the same page. And I feel this government should have engaged the youths more through the youth. right? You should have engaged the youth more with the language that they understand. If you intend to attract a little child, you don't go to the little child with, let's say, baby. You don't go with the little child with dollar bills. I mean, the baby does not know what a dollar bill is. You go with chocolate, you go with honey, you go with sweets. Definitely the baby will run at you. That's simply the psychology here. It should have been that, what do these guys want? How can we get their attention? And it's important that I say that it's not just the police brutality, because as far as I'm concerned, NSS did a bit, but it's painful to say that police brutality is still with us. I mean, go all over the media. Beyond NSAS, a number of police officers have been disbanded because they were involved in brutality. So sometimes you wonder, is it that the government does not see the bad effect of this? That's not to even talk about the activities of the EFCC and all of that. You know, they just get into students' hostel in universities, pick out students and all of. I mean, all of this goes to say that the approach of this current administration, as far as the youth is concerned, has been poor, and it is still poor up till now. I make bold to say that.
Wow. Deborah, let me come to you. Let's talk a little bit of politics at this moment in time. Are you satisfied with youth engagement in this outgoing administration, which is just about 6 days from now? Can we specifically look at which position is held by youth in this country? Are you pleased with the activities of youth, the presence of youth in this administration?
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to start with saying no nations thrive without the capacity of its youth.
The youths, yeah.
And naturally, I feel that the youth inclusiveness would have brought us farther than we are now. And this administration didn't do so much to engage us.
Maybe the youths weren't ready to be engaged.
As much as I will agree with that, there could have been other better approach. I mean, you had a space of 8 years. What happened? If you are claiming at the end of your administration that the youth were not ready, are you saying for the whole of that 8 years, they were not ready? What happened with starting from the very first administration, try to build them so they will be ready at the end of your administration? I mean, life is a process.
Absolutely.
So if it's really about building, it's not just about coming to carry or lift or like they claim. So it's...
You're not satisfied with the inclusiveness, the roles the youth played in this administration?
No.
Let me go back, Toby. Your take. In this cabinet, can we pinpoint what a youth that will say held a cabinet role in this administration, which we don't? I know we don't have naturally, but for governance to thrive, to be able to at least build for the future, we need to catch them young, as it's always been said. But at this moment in time, this administration is winding down. We said this. What could they have done that the youth will have played a pivotal role, while we look at the incoming administration that will take a cue from that?
I believe the first thing they could have done right is to speak the language of the youth.
Which is?
And the language of the youth is inclusion. What I mean by inclusion, you don't make plans for someone that you have not assessed. If you understand what I'm trying to say. Right, so usually when budget is to be made in a state, you might have been a part of it. There's going to be a town hall meeting where they would invite various stakeholders and they would say, okay, let's have your take. What do you think your community needs? Right? And then the professionals who get to hear about this, I mean, folks in the budget and planning, they get back to the drawing board and, you know, they try as much as possible to build policies and programs around this to implement, right? So this administration would have done exactly what Deborah said. They could have brought the youth closer, basically, like I said, through tech, through the digital economy. I mean, one of the best ways to gather more than 1,000 youth in Nigeria today is to have conversations around tech, have conversations around career, have conversations around business, because the state at which the Nigerian youth is, no well-meaning Nigerian youth in Nigeria today is thinking of getting a government job? Nobody.
But let's look at this set of youths that we're talking about as well. Yeah. Tech, which is fantastic. If we look at what the state government, our state government is trying to do right at this moment in time, it's fantastic.
Beautiful.
But then they tend to want to go a step ahead, and that's why we have them more involved in Yahoo and things like that. And this is what the government is looking at and say, look, if we involve these guys in here, they probably will end up doing cyber crimes.
But then if you do not involve them, they will end up cyber crimes. Long before tech became a household name in Nigeria, people have been involved in cyber crime. Go to countries across the world, countries that have blossoming economies, countries where unemployment is reduced to the least you can think of. There is cyber crime. You do not say because a car causes accidents, you won't enter a car. I mean, it's funny. I felt, okay, if we are to go by that, the president should have said, oh, because there is a lot of corruption here and there, I refuse to be president. Right under his nose, we've had people who were accused of corruption, people who should be the main soldier that should stand against corruption were accused of corruption. So I think it's this same ideology that, if we engage these guys, they might just get into fraud. It is this same ideology that has encouraged fraud the more. Let me explain this. If you understand that this particular sector is important to these folks, get into the sector, create policies, follow up with the policies, create incentives, create opportunity, adjust the academic curriculum of our institutions. Let it be tailored towards this perspective. If it is tailored towards this perspective, we will get the best of what we're doing. Let me give you an example. I have a colleague who is currently on his PhD program in the United States. He studied applied mathematics. Take note, applied mathematics. He currently does research with healthcare professionals. When I got to know, I was asking, I said, how does it relate? And he said to me, he would never have thought in his wildest dream that applied mathematics would have a thing to do with tech, let alone have a thing to do with healthcare. He said not until he had opportunity to study in South Africa, then in United Kingdom, that he got into US. That was when he understood that a lot of the things that we are being taught in Nigeria is way too old for the current, is way too old for the global village that we are in. It's just way too archaic. Okay. So every stakeholder must be engaged.
To buttress his point,
yes, please.
I think most of the subjects we take these days are outdated. They are no longer,
in present time with modern
it's
world.
Not tackling the contemporary world as it is now. And except we actually look into our school curriculum system and redesign them to meet the present need, we would just be running in circle.
Wow.
Honestly, we would just keep running in circle. And as far as I'm concerned, or like you rightly pointed out, this digital world, this digital literacy is the key, is something that would bring the youth on board, in not just in few numbers but in masses. Like, it's going to not just help the issue of poverty, it's also going to help eradicate a lot of gender gap, a lot of economic problems and all. So the only way to actually make this work is to engage us all round, business-wise, digital-wise, tech-wise. That is just the only way to go. And most of these subjects, it's very funny that some of these people in school do not even know what to do with them. They just go because in fact, we've glorified grades in Nigeria. we glorify schooling over education. And really, education is the core, skill of life. It's the core essence of life. But in Nigeria, schooling has been the main thing, not the education itself. And that's why we keep getting it wrong. That's why we keep running in circles. So, like he pointed out, this administration has not done so well in that aspect. But we want to believe the incoming administration would would do well to get stakeholders, economic planners to put all of these into consideration and bring about policies that would help all of us strive and become better.
Yep.
Strive and become better. We look forward to that. Before we call it a day, let's look at that statement credited to Mr. President a couple of years ago, that Nigerian youths are lazy. Yeah. President Buhari called Nigerian youths lazy, and also the chairperson of NIDCOM, Bike Dabiri Erewa, has often hinted at Nigerian youths causing trouble in foreign countries. Now, how do you think Nigerian youths were perceived on the international scene based on these indices?
Thank you. Because we're talking about Nigeria, and of course we're talking about Africa, I would like to start with this proverb. The proverb says that you do not call your daughters prostitute and you expect them to get suitors. I mean, you give birth to these daughters, and yet you say, oh, my daughters are prostitutes. And then you go ahead to complain that, oh, my daughters are not getting married. What's happening? It does not work that way, right? So when the president made this statement, I think he made that statement around 2018, if I'm not mistaken. He made the statement, I think, at Commonwealth Economic Forum, if I'm not mistaken. Now, when he made this statement, I wanted to ask, if I was opportune, to ask Mr. President that on what basis was this statement made? What was the indices for this? How did he come about this conclusion? Right. I am not saying that every Nigerian youth understand what they want to do with their life and they're really pursuing their dreams. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that if you look at the number of Nigerian youths, right, that are taking initiatives, that are building businesses, that are building ideas that can transform their community, that can transform the economy of this nation, I think you might want to withdraw that statement. You know, sometimes you get to ask, has Mr. President met some of these Nigerians? Have you met Inyolu Aboyeji? Have you met some of these guys that are building initiatives? Have you read about Slum to School? Have you read about UTIVA? Have you read about OutSchool? These are initiatives that people from around the world come down to Nigeria to learn from. That goes to say that, and it's important that I say that for a lot of those people that are making giant strides, that are youth, they've made these strides based on little or no support or commitment from the government. So it's more like you're thinking business. I'm not giving you anything. You start up a business and you're able to generate 6 figures in 3-4 months. What will happen if I'm able to invest more? I think that is the perspective from which we should see things. Now, before I allow Deborah come in, let's quickly, let me look at how do you perceive the statements credited to both President Muhammadu Buhari and Abike, the NIDCOM chairperson, Abike Dabiri Erewa. How do you perceive these statements from both of them on Nigerians, looking at it globally from the international scene? How do they perceive us as Nigerians? I've had issues, of course, when you get probably to Heathrow or JFK, you get to some of these major airports and you drop your passport and they say Nigeria. They probably look at you. How do you think this perception of the international scene has affected the youth of this dear nation? The way it has affected us,
even in foreign land,
it has limited us. And I can say
not just affected us,
it has limited us. And I can say this because I do a lot of online business, and there are sometimes that you want to make simple payments that should be done in less than minutes, but because you are a Nigerian, you cannot make such payments. You may not understand, sir, until you get to experience these things. I mean, it's frustrating. It's as bad as saying that you cannot receive payments directly into your Nigerian bank account from some countries on some platforms. Why? Because you are a Nigerian. And Nigerians have been perceived, right, They've been perceived to be fraudsters, to do all of this. Now, we are not ruling out the fact that we have Nigerians that have not done so well. I mean, we have a number of Oshpopi and a number of them that are currently in jail. But that does not go to say that we have Nigerians that are changing the narrative. And like I have said, Nigeria is not, you can't just rule out the fact as though Nigeria stands alone. Even in America today, we have American folks that are changing the narrative. We have American folks that have put the name of that country in bad books. So it's not as though it is particular to Nigerians. But I must say that for me, if you ask me, the reason why I feel the NIDCOM chairman and the president has made this statement is because you assume that someone is bad if the person refuses to dance to your tune. That's just it. Because what they feel is, oh, Nigerian youth should be good kids. So when we give instructions, no one is raising a highbrow, no one is calling us out, no one is saying anything on Twitter. Whatever the president says, just respect him, and you don't say a word. But the world has evolved. It has evolved beyond running a country like it's a military era or more like a dictator. So I feel what prompted this statement, I must say, is the fact that there is a style of leadership that this administration enjoyed and they would have loved to use, but then the Nigerian youth stood as a major hindrance to that style of leadership.
Before we call it out, Deborah, just the past a couple of months past now, we had the presidential election on the 25th of February of this year, and we saw how massively the youths came out for a particular candidate, right? What do you foretell concerning the youths in the future as Nigeria progresses gradually? Do we see us as youths, let me just include myself at this moment, do we see us taking the baton in the nearest future?
Well, as much as
the baton of leadership.
As much as I would say yes, I just pray we don't fail woefully. Because to be honest, when the whole Peter Obi movement started, it was looking promising. But at some point, we ourselves actually sabotaged everything. We were not taking it the right way. And I want to believe that is because we did not have the needed knowledge to run things well. It became so funny that some people started making it violent, they started misbehaving, all in the name of that movement. And that wasn't the purpose. It wasn't supposed to be. I believe if we were more organized, if it was more organized, if it was, pointing towards a more direct approach or a more direct goal, we would probably not be here today. So the whole thing is, as much as I believe what you've said, like, of course, in the nearest future, these ones are getting old. So naturally, there are some things time will not accommodate. So even if they don't want to go, naturally, time
will take them aside.
Exactly.
All right. Now, before we go, a new government, a new administration in the next 6 days takes the baton over from President Muhammadu Buhari. Gentlemen, what projection will you project for this incoming government, majorly concerning the youths? Toby.
For this government, for the incoming government, I would like to say that I would like that this administration understands that the youths are already on the edge. The youths have been pushed. The youths have reached the point where Japa is becoming a big deal every day because the youths keep losing hope in this nation. But I can say that if this nation experiences a turnaround today, you'll be amazed at the number of youths that will get back into this country. Right? Nigerians are patriotic. I can say that anyway. That will get back into this country. I feel this administration must try as much as possible to get the youth involved.
That's the incoming administration.
The incoming administration. Don't make policies for youths when a youth is not a member of the committee that formulated the policy. It doesn't work. What you've just done is you have created a political policy that will not work. You don't create policies without the implementers of the policies. You don't say you're creating policies for women and there is no women on board. It does not work that way. You need the perspective of a woman to create policies for a woman. And as much as I would tell them to involve the youth, they should understand that, fine, the youth needs the adult. Oh, of course, we need them. Because for a lot of these folks, this is their second or third time of ruling this country. Some of these folks were our age, they were youths when they ruled this country. And at that time, you know, the country was, as much as I was told, I was not alive anyway, but then the country was flourishing. Right? The country had its head up high across the globe. So I want to say, if as at the time when we had our head up high across the globe, youths were involved, if we were going to experience the same, it is important that youths must be engaged. Youths must be brought on board. As a matter of fact, I make bold to say that any government that is going to be successful in Nigeria going forward, one of the things you can do that is going to put your name in the sounds of time forever, time immemorial, is to do things that can engage the youth and focus, that can make things better for them. And of course, it's not a big deal. Tell anyone, if you want to transform this country today, you want to make the youth better, two things. Just provide electricity 24/7. Go ahead, provide bandwidth, data. Let people have access to internet network anywhere and around. Just guide it, put policies in place, put people in place. Let them ensure that these things are not abused. Let them ensure that these things are used in the right.
Monitored.
I tell you, you will be, in fact, America will learn from Nigeria. I mean, they will learn from the creativity of the Nigerian youth.
Debbie, what's your take? Do you see us as youths doing the needful in the nearest future at this moment in time?
Well, with the right enabling environment, education, right training, and of course, like I said, the right environment, I see us doing better and better by the day.
It's been a pleasure speaking with both of you this morning. Thank you for joining me and Emmanuel on Morning Spring. We have been speaking with Deborah Sholadoye, who's an entrepreneur. Thank you most sincerely for coming. And also I have been speaking with Babawale Oluwatobi, the youth, the programs coordinator initiative for Youth Resource Center. Yep. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
And please do the needful. So when you are up there, I'll be able to say, I know that.
Thank you so much.
It's still a pleasure, smile. It's still Morning Spring, and very shortly, Emmanuel will be back on Spring Trends to give us what is happening from various here. Thank you for being there. Tunde Ido is my name.